Hi everyone, we're going to be exploring something called disciplinary thinking today. Big words, I know, but don't worry, by the end of this video you'll be able to understand it perfectly. Disciplinary thinking is all about how people in different subjects like history and geography think and ask questions to learn more about the world. Historians think about the past, what happened, why it happened, and how it's changed our lives today. Geographers think about places, where things are, how people live there, and how we look after our planet. Over the next few minutes, we'll travel through history, explore geography, and discover how these subjects are connected in your school's curriculum. Then we'll look at how all of this links to the Global South. Well, can you guess what this is? It's the Harbour Bridge. Yeah, you got it. Have you ever wondered about the past, looked at an old photo and wondered how life used to be for older generations? Well, this is exactly what historians do. They ask questions about how our life came to be today and investigate the past. Historians like to have knowledge on topics they are trying to understand. To get this knowledge, historians learn about how people lived and how the world has changed. To do this, historians use primary sources like old newspapers, letters, and film to find clues about the past. You might think that being a historian is easy. Well, there are skills you need to be an historian. When they look at these primary sources, they have to ask questions like, who made this? When was this created? This helps historians paint a picture of the past and what happened so long ago. Everyone knows how in science there are theories behind the way the world works. Historians use these theories for the same reason, to explain why something is the way it is. This includes how things change, why it is different from the past compared to now, and how different point of views shape people now. So next time you're at your grandparents' house or visiting a museum, remember to ask questions and investigate so you can think like a true historian. This is the slide. Nice. Now we will be moving on to geography. Geography is my personal favourite out of the two. But do you guys ever wonder why we have seasons? Why it's hot in the desert and cold in Antarctica? Well, this is what it is like to think like a geographer. They find clues on why places are different and why they change. Geographers value understanding people, places, and environments. They learn about how the weather changes and what makes a city sustainable. Asking questions like why people choose to live in the places they do or how the weather affects their way of life. Have you ever seen people outside collecting sand or dirt? This is a geographer at work. They use their skills to collect data and investigate the soil and sand for significant weather changes. These changes can look like long periods of drought or short, heavy bursts of rain. Geographers use maps and trails to inform their next field of work. Geographers, like historians, place high value on theories, but theories in geography consist on common things like location and weather changes. But geographers think about how these factors affect the people living within them. A theory that geographers study is called feminism. Have you ever heard of feminism? If not, don't stress. The basic understanding is simple. It's that women fought to have the same rights as men, and it's the reason why women can go to school. So next time you see people collecting sand and soil, know that it's geographers collecting data for their research. This is all part of how children will learn to show disciplinary thinking through developing their skills to think like a historian and their understanding of what it takes to think like a historian. Now, when learning about history and geography in schools from the Australian curriculum, there are many different topics taught between the years of K to 6. These topics are essential for all children to learn when they are young, so they are ready for the real world when they grow up. From ACARA, the first topic children learn is the personal world. This involves learning about how members of our family grow up, what their family dynamics may be like. The children look at the structure of other cultures and how families operate. Do you and the person sitting next to you have the same morning routine or day-to-day lives? Well, this question is what children should be able to answer after the years kindergarten to year 2, according to ACARA. In years 3 to 6, children will start to learn the diversity of the Aboriginal people of Australia and their connection to country. Children will learn about Captain Cook and the British fleet that settled Australia without permission from the traditional owners of the land. When children learn about the Australian past, for example, the First Fleet, they are developing their knowledge and understanding, showing strong disciplinary thinking taught from the ACARA language. Geography is very different. According to the ACARA curriculum, in years K to 2, children will learn about features of familiar places, the nature of man-made features in their area, while also understanding how we are interconnected communities. Can you think of a time where you've seen a mural where you live or a painting on the wall? Well, that is something that creates a familiar place. This is important because it helps children get a grasp of the world they live in and recognise. In years 3 to 6, according to the ACARA curriculum, children will learn about the Australian states and territories, the importance of the environment and the influences of the people on the characteristics of the place. Learning about Australia, it is incredibly important for children because it provides them with a sense of belonging to the country they live in. When children develop the skill to point out things in everyday life, they will show a strong sense of disciplinary thinking. Now, for a bit of a higher part to understand, globalization and the global south. I know what it sounds like. The global south is just the bottom areas of the world. Well, it's a bit more complicated than that. When getting scientific, the global south describes power, inequality, and history within countries. Have you ever heard the term third world country? Well, saying the global south is the same thing but with a different name. When looking at the ACARA curriculum, there is little to no mention of the global south. It describes differences in cultures. These differences are just some of the difference in everyday life. The ACARA curriculum doesn't go into detail about why some of these countries and cultures are different. They leave out how people were treated differently in the past and how this treatment affects people now. This concludes our lesson today. Remember how to think like a historian and how to think like a geographer. Next lesson we will be adventuring into how to think like a sociologist. Boom.